Ghana is not making any meaningful progress in budget transparency. That's according to an open budget survey report released by development NGO Sent Ghana. In 2017, Ghana scored 50 out of 100 in the open budget index, representing a fall, though marginal, in scores in comparison with a score of 51 in 2015. Send Ghana wants government to publish pre-budget statement online as part of measures to deal with the situation. In the studio with me now is Sandra Kwabea Sakwa, project officer at Send Ghana, to help us understand this report better and look at how we can get the situation to improve. Sandra, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let me first of all find out from you, what is this index and why should Ghanaians consider it important or pay attention to it in the first place?
Okay. Thank you very much. So the Open Budget Index is actually, let me say, just a wing from what we call the Open Budget Survey. Okay. So the survey is the entire research work that is conducted, but the index in itself is what measures the transparency of government in publicizing budget documents to its citizens. And so if you look at what the index entails, it means that anything below the mark of 50 means limited score.
Okay, so what it means at this point is that Ghana has passed, right?
What it means is that Ghana is still providing limited information when it comes to budget to the general public.
But it still gained a pass mark of 50.
It is not a pass in itself if we talk about Ghana. Globally, if you score that of 50, it means you've exceeded the average mark. And so in that case, you would want to say that yes, Ghana has exceeded the average score. But then you know Ghana to be one of the promising countries in Africa, and so we have more expectations to see Ghana move ahead. So
why don't you give authorities a pat on the back and say, yes, we passed it, you know, we gained the pass mark, but there's still a lot more work to do than to come from the other side where it's a bit more gloomy, if I should put it that way.
Exactly. I tend to share with you on that. In presenting the findings to government, we really didn't come from the negative side.
Okay.
We congratulated government for getting to that pass mark, but then we still think that Ghana has that zeal to move ahead, right, and to progress.
Right. We do have the environment to get forward in that. What was the you didn't answer the question about why Ghanaians should consider such surveys or such an index important in the first place?
Exactly. So that brings me to what transparency means and why I would even want to see why Ghana has to pass the index using the transparency index. And so, one, the usefulness of budget documents becomes a priority here when you talk about transparency. Okay. If government publicizes documents to its citizen and it doesn't come in time, then it means that the document is no more useful. Okay. And that is one of the factors that is taken in or considered in measuring our index, our transparency. In other words, transparency is equal to the OBI, the Open Budget Index.
Okay.
Exactly.
So Ghanaians should be, that's why it's important for Ghanaians to know, if we're being transparent, what is the trickling down effect, for example, of transparency?
Sure. So we are now in the stage where the donor environment is becoming so much aware of these pillars when you talk about budget transparency as well as public participation and all of that. And so the donors are becoming more and more aware of how transparent the government is. And so if donors are providing you with that huge amount of money and they don't see it reflecting in so many areas.
So these are some of the things they will be looking out for.
Exactly.
If they need to invest in your country. But you make also a few recommendations. For example, one of them is for, well, let's look at the publication. You want government to publicize the budget before it actually makes it public in, say, Parliament. Is that it?
So that has got to do with the pre-budget statement.
Right.
We believe that, one, the issue is that government has committed to actually going in line with the globally accepted standards. And so everything about open budget survey is globally accepted. And we have signed and we have committed to going by whatever is in that commitment.
And by we, you mean Ghana?
In Ghana, yes, I mean Ghana.
Right.
And that commitment is what we call the Open Governance Partnership, of which Ghana signed onto it in 2011. And so you have to go by every standard that is laid down for every country that it's participating in that. And in that regard, it means that once other countries are publicizing the pre-budget statement, and for they benefiting from whatever goodies it comes with, it means that Ghana would have a way of also publicizing that document without any challenge. For us, we think that it is doable.
It is doable.
It is doable.
It is doable. Well, government, for example, will depend on civil society organizations like yourself to be able to carry some of these things. And it depends largely sometimes on your recommendations and on your advocacy. So you're asking that it be made available, for example, on websites, etc. Not a lot of Ghanaians have access to the internet. You could sit in Accra and see how easy. Recently, I traveled outside Accra, and most of the time I was not connected to the internet. So there's an issue of connectivity. How else would Send Ghana recommend that government makes this information available to people before the budget is concluded? Okay,
so what it means is that initially government was already publicizing some of its key budget documents online. But then that wasn't initially a criteria for the open budget survey. And so previously, if a document was accessible even in a hard copy, then it was considered as publicly available. But this has become a new methodology. And that in itself means that government must oblige by that. Now, in the situation where we tend to think that connectivity can be a challenge in assessing budget key document, I believe that we are still making some progress as a country and globally, because there was an analysis that was conducted just to be able to finalize on which methodology should be used in making sure that budget documents are accessible by the general public. And it has come to a conclusion that through internet, the citizens could access budget documents more than you having the hard copies in the offices of the ministries and then the other agencies that the open budget survey talks about.
You also talk about, in terms of your recommendations, you're recommending that government provides a platform for the public to engage prior to or on the day of submission of mid-year review to the legislature. Which other platform are you recommending? I mean, you say provide a platform, but which platform are you recommending?
So, similar like that of the executive budget proposal, where there are so many engagement that goes on, such that citizens have a way of inputting into the budget. We think that there is also that opportunity to have citizens make inputs into the mid-year review. Basically, we know that the mid-year review looks at the implementation of the budgets, as in how government has been able to spend funds within the first 6 months, and then also looking at how far government has been able to, expend and what it has been able to gain. And that is what the mid-year review means. And so in the situation where we have supplementary budget also coming in, then we think that there is a need for citizens to make some inputs just around the mid-year review, similar to that of the executive budget proposal before it comes in.
Okay. Did Ghana have any target before? Has there ever been a target?
There has been a target since 2010. So if you look at the trend, of the OBS for Ghana in particular, in 2006, when we started, we had a score of 42. Okay. Which meant that we didn't have the pass mark, but of course that was our first time, and so there was no alarm.
That was quite impressive.
Exactly, because I know countries who started with a 0, and even 2, and so for Ghana, I think that, like I said, Ghana is doing well, okay. And through to 2010, we scored 54. And so 54 meant that we've
actually done better.
We've done better, and it is based on that 54 marks that we set a high target of 67 for ourselves. Because if you look at that period of 206 to 2010, we had always had some significant progress. Okay. And so we thought that we could make it to the target of 67.
So, well, on that basis, then it's quite alarming that we're dropping
exactly
at the rates at which we are. So from 54, we've got to 51, and now we're at 50.
And so that is why we term it as stagnation, because we've been hovering just around 50 and 51.
Okay. Is there any other thing that we should know from this survey as we wrap up this conversation?
Okay, so the other thing has got to do with the fact that the Open Budget Survey does not look at transparency only, but it also brings into being public participation, how government is bringing in citizens in making sure that we make inputs into the budget processes throughout the budget cycle, as well as looking at the oversight roles of the legislature and that of the Supreme Audit Institution. And so if you look at the whole processes, it means that we do not want to just have a score of a higher score for just transparency,
but we also want to see
want an
people
inclusive,
involved.
exactly.
Okay, and that enriches the budget
exactly
at the end of the day, and people can actually own it,
sure, and
perhaps seek more accountability.
Exactly.
But in that case, you also have a recommendation here where you say put in place, and this is to government, put in place formal measures for the public to assist the Supreme Audit institutions to formulate audit programs and to participate in relevant audit investigations. And my question again is there any recommendation on how government can reach people and make them more, create that involvement that you're recommending?
Okay, so it is very possible that we could have government have that platform and that links to get citizens involved in the auditing processes. Because if you look at right through from the district level, already citizens are one way or the other making some audits. We are auditing, monitoring projects and all of that. And so we want that level where government would formalize right from the national level such that we could have citizens get the auditing or the monitoring of how expenditures and all anything that's got to do with budgets, be such that citizens can't get themselves involved.
So how should they come and, for example, come to JoyNews and place adverts, or collaborate with media organizations, the state broadcaster? I mean, are these any of the recommendations you're making? That
exactly,
because these are avenues through which government can reach people en masse, but is it the only way? Do you have any recommendations at all?
So one major recommendation out of that is where the Ministry of Finance, which seems to be the main body that deals with budget documents, as well as the legislature and then the Supreme Audit Institution, coming together to look at a one system that could feed into both the legislature as well as the Ministry of Finance and then the Supreme Audit, getting what they can use in making sure that it reaches the general public. And so moving forward, we're planning on having an engagement that brings on board the 3 major pillars or arms of government, and then we strategize how we could move forward on that. And so from that meeting, I think we would be able to get a concrete major way
do
forward.
Recommend to them to pay us some money so we can help them reach out to people.
That is one of the ways.
Without the media, ways,
without the media, we cannot actually succeed in making sure that we reach the public.
Very well. Sandra, I've been speaking with Sandra Kwabia, it's Kwabia, right?
Exactly.
Sandra Kwabia Sakwa. She's the programs coordinator for Send Ghana. We've been talking about how you can get involved in government's budget formulation even before they present it to you as a done deal. So you can put in your comments and your views, and at the end of the day you can own it and seek accountability from the people you've put in charge. Sandra, thank you very much for coming. Except you have a few more final words, otherwise I'm done with you.
Okay, I would just want to make a statement that Ghana is not doing that bad. But then the point is that globally we are well noted, and we have people and other countries have more expectations. And so we can together, looking at the three wings, come together, and then we excel in getting to meet our target of 67. It is not just about making the score or getting the right score, but it's about making sure that government is being checked. Everything about this survey is not just about a score, but then how, in reality, how are you getting citizens to understand the whole processes within the budget? And that makes everything about budgeting in the country a success.
Okay, all right. It boils down to accountability, really. Sandra, thank you very much for coming.